So today we're going to talk about building a roofing company's website for SEO purposes. So we're going to touch on the first thing of your CMS or your content management system, or referred to as CMS going forward. Then we're going to talk about your website structure, and we'll also go into more detail on kind of what I mean by website structure. Then we will talk about internal linking and like what that means. Then we'll also go into external linking, external links, or otherwise known as backlink. Then we'll talk about some trust factors. Then we'll talk about on-page optimization. And then below this, we'll also talk about ranking factors, or what's my definition of ranking factors. So for a roofing company's website CMS, let's go over here. So content management system, or CMS. So as a roofing company, you have a ton of options for your CMS or your website builder. There's two things I want to touch on mainly is that they're not heavy on JavaScript, and mainly we want static HTML. So you have tons of options when you go to build your website as a roofing company. And especially with all of these AI website builders that have recently come out, the thing I want to caution you with is just what are the frameworks that these are built on? So frameworks are basically just, in a very simple way, what is the type of JavaScript or the type of language that is being used to build the website. So a pretty familiar website builder is WordPress, and that can use a combination of JavaScript and HTML. You have your WordPress plugins as well that could be used to pull review content from your Google Business Profile. It can also be used to inject certain content and etc. Right? The thing we just want to be most aware of is what is being used language-wise when it comes to building your website. Ideally, and this is a personal preference, we want static HTML. So first we'll touch on why I don't like JavaScript, or why JavaScript is bad in my eyes. So JavaScript is bad in my eyes because when you put JavaScript page, or your CMS does it for you, basically what it does is it puts a script, right? And in this script, there's a certain things being labeled, or there's certain things being attributed to. Basically what this does is whenever Google or whenever your browser comes to your site and sees the script, it will then process this script to display all of the content on your site. You've got your images, you've got your heading tags, and you've got all of this content on page, right? So this script will be fed to your browser, which will then be processed the JavaScript, and then it will start to display all of the content on your site, right? Now, it may not display everything. Let's say this certain section right here is JavaScript, right? So all of this portion's at the top. This is HTML. And then as a easy example, this right here is a WordPress plugin that is pulling your Google Business Profiles reviews, right? So we've got this portion is HTML, and then this portion of your site right down here is JavaScript. So when Google comes by, so we're going to make G, this is Google. When Google comes by and crawls, and what crawling means is that it's going to slowly go down your page, right? It's going to read all of the code, When it comes by and it reads all of this code on your page to get an understanding of what is it about, what's on this page, etc., the static HTML Google's going to see. Google will always see the HTML or the static HTML. Now, a majority of the time when Google comes by, it does not have rendering enabled. So what does this mean? So this means there's going to be times when Google comes by, right? We got G for Google, and it's not going to see this content because Google does not always have rendering enabled. Rendering enabled allows Google to see all of this content. So a common issue is that these website builders, these popular AI website builders, are going to use stuff like React. And all of this puts out JavaScript. So there are instances in which your entire site will be JavaScript. It will be React components. It'll be these other frameworks, right? And so what can happen is, let's go to a more extreme example, because in this example, we're only saying that this WordPress plugin that's pulling in our Google Business Profile reviews is the only section of our site that is JavaScript. So let's say that the entire website is JavaScript, right? So your entire site is JavaScript. So that majority of the time when Google comes by and crawls, it comes and reads your page. It tries to understand what this page is about. It doesn't have rendering enabled. So all it's going to see is the script that you're feeding it. It's not going to see the content when you go and visit the page, because when you go and visit the page, your browser is doing all of the rendering for you. Your browser is what's running the script and then displaying the content to you. So what is not what Google will see. So what does that mean for SEO? So that majority of the time when Google comes by and crawls, it's not seeing your content, especially if a majority of it is all JavaScript. Not only that, when you have that WordPress plugin that's pulling in your Google Business Profile reviews via JavaScript, that's also not seen. So what this means is that at times, depending on how much JavaScript is used, rather a majority of the time Google's not seeing any of it, or in the WordPress example, it's seeing maybe instead 80%. You're only getting accounted for 80% of the SEO on your page. So if only 80% of your SEO is being shown to Google, then that other 20% of your on-page optimization is not being seen. And so that can lead to you ranking lower in search when your ideal customer or client is searching for your services, like roof repair or roof leak. So now let's talk about static HTML. So static HTML, every time Google comes by and crawls your site, it's always going to see all of the content. Every time Google comes by to crawl your page, because we're using static HTML, it's going to see all of the content. It's not going to have to send your page to a secondary crawling queue with rendering enabled. Instead, everything is statically displayed. So each time Google comes by, it doesn't need rendering enabled to see all of our content, to see all of our on-page optimization, to see all of the SEO we've done to our roofing company, right? So now we've talked about content management systems. So let's go to website structure. So when you go to structure your website, you want to have a few goals in mind. So one of them is proper internal linking, and I'll talk more about that in a second. And the reason for this, we'll do an A over here, is so that we get a full crawl depth. This is also going to help with our indexing and keeping pages indexed. So when I say proper internal linking, what do I? So as an example, this is, this is your home page. Then you've got a few of your service pages. Let's say you have 4 service pages, and then you've got 4 location pages. You've got an about page. You've got a contact us page, right? So our goal is that every single time Google comes by and crawls all of our pages, not just the home page, crawls the home page. It can also crawl all of the service pages, crawls the location pages, about, contact us. So our goal is that from the home page, Google can find all of our pages within 3 clicks. So what does that look like? What does that mean? So if we were to take an example of, this is your home page, right? You've got the top page of the page and you got the bottom of the page. So this is the navigation, or sometimes called the header. Then this can also be considered navigation, or also called the footer. And so what we want to do in these sections of our page, right? We got the top of the page, we've got the bottom of the page, where the header and the footer is, we want to have links. And these links are going to go to special sections, or otherwise just called hubs or service pages. Or you can also think of it as just location pages, or just a blog page, right? So all of these, let's do blog as an example. On your blog hub page, you want links, right? We want a whole bunch of links to all of our individual blog pages. And we're going to use the letter B for blog. So on this blog hub, we want to link to all of our individual blogs. So what this does is Google will come by to our home page, and we have a link that goes to our blog hub. Then Google will find that link to our blog hub. It will follow it, right? They'll follow that link. And then from our home page to our blog hub, we'll have all the links going to our individual blogs. So then Google can come by and find all of these from our blog hub, and then it will go and crawl these all individually. So each time Google comes by and crawls, it crawls the homepage, it then catalogs or places all of those links into a queue, which then later it will come by and crawl those as well. Then, so it found all of our links on our blog hub, it will queue them, then it will go and crawl those individually. So this is one example of proper internal linking, because our goal, remember, our goal is, and I'll write it up here. So our goal is 2 to 3 clicks from the home page should be found. And so how we achieve this is you have these hubs, you have a blog hub, or there's another way to do this. So let's say that we had a locations page. So we're going to move over here. So instead of having a link to our blog hub in the header, we had a link to a location page, right? So we'll go out here, and then this will be our locations page. So roofer in Pensacola, Florida, right? We have this location page, which is trying to target the keyword roofer Pensacola, right? From this page, we have a link to our other locations areas, but maybe let's say we only did one link, right? We did pace. On this pace page, what we could do is we could have a ton of links to our other location pages, right? So we got a link from our home page, in our main navigation in the header, linking to our roofer in Pensacola, Florida. Then we have a link from that page to our pays page, which has links to all of our other location pages. Then what we do is all of these are linking to each other, right? Not only are they linking to each other that way, but they can also be linking to each other, let's see, this way. Then this one links to that one. Then this one links to that one, right? And you can see this is going to get kind of messy here in an example, but it's all going to make sense. So on these individual locations pages, they're also linking to all of our other location pages. So at any time when Google comes by and crawls this page, this roofer in Pensacola, Florida page, crawls that one link we have to our pays page, then these pays page has all of these other internal links to all of our other location pages. This is another way of achieving our goal of Google finding all of our pages within 2 to 3 clicks from the homepage. So one of the many benefits of doing this, of having these instances in which we have internal linking, remember our goal is that our pages are reached within 2 to 3 links, is that this is going to help us get a full crawl depth. So what a full crawl depth means is that as Google comes by, it's able to reach all of our pages. So what is that? Why is that important? So let's say, as an example here, we went and created a new service page, but we never linked to it. So this new service page is supposed to be targeting a keyword, right? But because we didn't ever link to it externally, or we didn't link to it enough from multiple pages, like down here, every time Google came by and crawled, it never found this new service page that's targeting this keyword. Another thing that can happen is because we don't have good enough internal linking or enough internal linking is, let's say this new page that we created, let's say this service page, right? We created, there's a whole bunch of on here, right? And then let's say right down here at the bottom, we updated the page. We added more on-page optimization. Because we didn't properly internally link to this page from all of our other pages, rather in our sitemap, or we made like an HTML sitemap, or from our other service pages, from our blog pages, from our locations pages, whatever reason, right? So because we didn't link to it, this section right here of all of this new on-page optimization we added, right? We went and we added a whole bunch of keywords to this page. We went and we added a whole bunch of entities, LSI terms. Maybe we even added some more schema on this page. Because we didn't link to it enough, link to it at all, we didn't have proper internal linking, Google will never see that new on-page optimization we added, or it's going to take 1 to 3 weeks, or even maybe 1 to 3 months. The point of this is that it can take a long time for Google to see this instance in which you added a whole bunch of on-page optimization, but Google never found out about it because you rather didn't link to it enough to show Google that it was important, or you didn't link to it at all. You know the page exists, but Google doesn't. Another thing that you can do as well to help with proper internal linking is you can create a sitemap. This is called a sitemap.xml. So if you're using WordPress, it should automatically create one for you. If you're not, if you're creating your websites with some AI website builders, what can happen is that you may have to prompt it and tell it to create a sitemap, because sometimes these AI website builders may not have the context to know that this has to be updated. So you might have to manually prompt it each time. Another thing is that we can create a HTML sitemap. And then this is something that we can place in the footer. So this is another chance or another opportunity for us to link to a page. So the sitemap is a page that has all of the links on your site. So not only in the footer can we link to our HTML sitemap, we can also put our XML sitemap in there as well. So whenever Google does come by and crawls our homepage and puts all of those links into a queue, we can have it queue up our HTML version of our sitemap and our .xml version of our sitemap. So this proper internal linking will not only help with our full crawl depth, then this will also help with our indexing. So what is indexing? So indexing is when Google will place a page in the main index. Now there are many names for this, but for now we're just going to call it the main index. And what this means is that when someone searches for something, like they search for roofer near me, your web page is a result. So sometimes what you'll see in your Google Search Console is you'll see this little box in the page report, and it will be like this, and then you'll see something like this, right? Then this will be historical. So this would be like 01. Then this would be like 01-12. So as an example here, we can see that we've got 450 pages that aren't indexed, and then we have 100 pages that are indexed. So by have proper internal linking, what this does is this can help get our pages indexed, because each time Google comes by and crawls, it can find all of our URLs. If Google doesn't find a URL to a page, if Google never discovers a page, you never link to it, or you don't link to it enough, it's not going to be indexed. So what that means is, and there are different terms or there are different types of indexing, but we're just going to talk about the indexing in which your page appears in the search result. So this can cause you to not appear here. So what that means is that new roof repair page you made, so you can get people that are looking to get their roof repaired, it's not appearing in search. Now, there are other reasons for why pages aren't indexed, but for right now, we're just talking about proper internal linking. So not only will proper internal linking help get your pages indexed in the first reason, but it will also help keep them indexed as well. Another thing, since we're here, that I want to talk about is when you go to build your website. So as a roofing company, when you go to build your website, or you already have your site built, you don't need a huge website. You don't need 50 to 100 to 200 pages to rank. So what's commonly happening is you have a lot of these people, due to the fact that it's really easy, or there's a lot of accessibility in creating pages en masse. So is everyone using these AI website builders are creating 50 pages, they're creating 100 page or 200 page websites. So to rank locally, or like SEO local, like a roofing company in a city, you may not need more than 15 pages. You don't need like 35 blogs to rank. You can rank a one-page website, right? I have a current client right now, and so when I say one page, I'm just referring to the home page. I'm not including like a privacy policy or like a terms of service, right? So when I say like a one-page website, I mean like the home page, then we have the trust factors, so we've got the sitemap, we've got the privacy policy, terms of service, robots.txt, ads.txt. Now the HT access isn't a page, but so we have a HT access set up. We redirect all traffic from www, right? So regardless of all that, what I'm trying to say is that you don't need like a 50 to 100 page to a 200 page website to rank as a roofing company in local search. you can have a very simple website, very simple structure site where you maybe have only 15 pages and you can rank just fine. So, yeah. So we can get away with maybe 15 pages, maybe you can get up to 35. What will probably happen is that you'll start building out blog content and then having that link back to some of your service pages. And then when that stops helping you rank, that's when you're going to want to look towards more external links or backlinks. I've done a lot of audits recently, and I'm just starting to see people are starting to make these insanely big websites. And I think just because it's so easy with these AIs or LLM tools to do so, or these AI website builders, or basically just in general, right? You do not have to rank locally. And ideally, what you would want to do is you just want to start off with the homepage. You want to get that started. You want to get your on-page optimization really well. You want to get your privacy policy, your terms of service, maybe an about page. You got your sitemap, XML. You've got your ads.txt. You've got your robots.txt. I don't really consider those pages. And then once that's in Google, Google is kind of like getting an understanding of that. You've got your Google Business Profile linking back to it. Then maybe you can consider going to 3 or 5 pages. But if you do this, you've got your citations. You're not in a crazy competitive environment. Because a lot of this, the amount of pages you need, so like pages or how big the site is, your on page, amount of backlinks you need, and then also what can you get away with is a lot determined, like all of this is determined by your competition. A majority of what it takes to rank in your local environment is really dependent on what your local competition is doing, right? So there are local ranking factors, then there are global ranking factors. And so what this means is that, let's say locally, if you were to search for your keyword or service like roofer near me, and the top 10 results, now there's a caveat here, the top 10 results, but we searched 10 times. Okay, so the top 10 results averaged out from the 10 times that we searched. So of those pages that are currently ranking, if their backlink portfolio or backlink profile is only of 5 to 10 each, none of these go above 50, then we can easily beat them on this ranking factor by just simply getting more than 50. So what do I mean by this? So a lot of what will dictate where you will place is dependent on your competition. Like locally, to rank for this, it only requires 50 backlinks as an example, right? Globally, like if we were to look at across a whole bunch of different keywords, a whole bunch of different local competition levels, if we were to look globally for roofers, and let's say in one city it's 50, in another city it's 150, then another city it's 200, then we've got 35, and then we've got 1,000, and then all of a sudden we start looking in Los Angeles, and we're like, oh, so here it's like 3,500. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that's crazy. What I'm trying to say is that you really want to look at what is occurring where you're located. Because you can go and look at Los Angeles and you can see this 3,500 backlinks, right? And you can think that's what it takes to rank locally, but that's not true. There's a lot of areas, like local areas, where you can easily beat out like 80, like 90% of your competition with one press release. And so what a good press release will get you is 300 plus backlinks. And then you can easily beat out a majority of these local areas or these local competitions for this specific ranking factor. So then what global ranking factors are is across the board, right? Across all the keywords or across a lot of the keywords that are searched, right? So each of these are a keyword. These are all going to have very similar ranking factors, or they're going to have very similar pages that are ranking with in relation to the factors that they have. So what does that mean? So if we were to look at all of these, a commonality that we're going to see is that they use their keyword, right? The keywords on page. It's like, okay, yeah, duh, Chris, but the amount, so let's think about the amount of times. It's probably going to be higher. Not only that, what we have is, let's say, the keyword in the H1 is going to be common across globally all of these different keywords. H1 having the keyword in the H1, right? That's going to be like a global ranking factor across multiple keywords, across multiple competition areas, etc., right? What may not be globally accepted is the amount of photos. Now, what do I mean by this? So, not only do we have local, but then we also have the type of keyword. So, what I mean by this is, let's say that we have DUI lawyer. A DUI lawyer keyword is going to have a higher word count on average. But if we think about a bathroom remodeler, right? This is going to have higher photo counts. So what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say here is that the type of keyword that you're going to rank for is going to have different influences on what ranks. So a DUI lawyer keyword is going to have a higher word count because what is chosen as a ranking factor is the competition for that, right? So if everyone in your local market has a higher word count for this keyword, then that keyword requires a higher word count. Now, as a bathroom remodeler, because you're going to have more photos than DUI lawyer, right? Because bathroom remodeling is a very visual service. What's going to happen is that you're going to see higher photo counts correlate with rankings for this very specific keyword. Your competition locally is going to use more photos on average than if we were comparing this to DUI lawyer, right? So let's say that your competition uses an average of 10 photos. So then you need to beat them and you need to get to 11 or you need to get to 12 photos. Now, let's say you're trying to go after DUI lawyer. So your word count, let's say on average, they're using 3,000 words on their pages. So then you need to slightly beat them. So now, real quick, I just want to make sure this is like, let me be clear. There's more than 2 ranking factors. There's over 100,000 ranking factors. I'm more just trying to explain that your local competition or your local environment is going to have an influence on what it takes to rank. And so by looking at what is currently ranking, we can get an idea of what it takes. So as an example, we can look at the word counts of the pages. We can look at how many photos are the competition in that area have, so that we have an understanding of what we need to do to your pages to help them rank, right? So those are some of the local ranking factors, right? Because not only do we have the competition, right? So we have our competition using an average of 10 photos on their pages, but also because our keyword is a very visual keyword, a very visual service, right? This also ups the amount of photos required to rank because the DUI lawyer is a higher word count, then we have to have a higher word count as well. The other thing too is when we consider DUI lawyer, this is a super competitive niche. So what does that mean? So that means what we're going to see for this keyword as well is that we're probably going to see a higher requirement for backlinks. We're also going to see a higher requirement for keyword density. This is also maybe, depending on the competition, we might need more pages to internally link from. We might need more relevance from those pages, right? Not only do we need a higher amount of backlinks, but we need a higher quality of backlinks as well to rank for this. So global ranking factors are things that are true across all of the terms, everything that we've searched, right? So as an example, if we had 8 different keywords, 8 different search terms that we used, ranking factors that are true across all of these, right? So having the keyword on page, having a keyword in the H1. When we go and search these 8 keywords and we search it 10 times and we take the top 10 results each time from all of these 8 different keywords, we can get an idea of the global ranking factors. Then, as we want to go and rank more locally, right, we need to get a better understanding of what are the local ranking factors. What is my current competition doing? So, does my competition have 10 images? Okay, well then I need to get 11 to 12 images on my website. Does my competition have a higher word count? Okay, well then I need to start aiming for a higher word count. Now, again, there's over 100,000 different ranking factors. So we can't consider all of these, but maybe what we can do is like the top 200. And then what's also really good and really cool about SEO is that a lot of these they kind of go in tandem, right? So if in my H1, I use a keyword, not only is it a keyword, but it's a keyword variation. I now get, so I have an H1, so I got 1, there's a keyword in it, 2, then I got a keyword variation, so 3. So from this one instance, I can get 3 ranking factors. And then this is just one example of 1 or 3 to where I can start getting more of these, I can start getting closer to there. And so you need proper tools that can go and measure the ranking factors. So we take the global ones that are true across all of these keywords. And so we know that they're ranking factors based off of these search results. And then we take our local and we see, okay, so what does it currently take to rank for this keyword? What is my local competition doing that I